So what's up guys, I'm Black, it's amazing. Welcome back to another video on the channel where what we're going to do today is take a deeper look at the brand new Act 4 Season 2 cutscene that we've just had for Modern Warfare 3 Zombies. It gives us a little bit of new information, some stuff to think about. I'll be honest, I haven't been paying that much attention to the story, I don't find it super interesting, but there are a couple of things to keep your eyes on and a few characters that we are familiar with, being Samantha Maxis, which as we'll see in a minute, could start to play a bigger role in the story. But anyway, before I explain it, we first need to watch it, and just in case you haven't seen the previous acts to get you up to this point, I will leave the link to those down in the description.
You've got some explaining to do. You're hurt.
I have had worse.
I don't doubt it. Or I wouldn't have to if your file wasn't a black hole.
My file? How did you
Please. Breaking the locks on a few cold case CIA files from a CIA terminal, not exactly a challenge. You're making a mess of that. Give it here. You were part of Requiem.
Yes.
What happened to them?
Maxis sacrificed herself to end the outbreak. We promised we would find a way to rescue her. And when we failed, it was a blow. Some of us took it very hard. We vowed never to let this happen again.
So you're 0 for 2 on those promises?
But I am still here, am I not, Dr. Jensen? I am still fighting.
And here's the thing. You shouldn't be. That was 30 years ago, and look at you.
I have good genes.
Oh, that's a crock, and you know it. What was the focus of Requiem's Ethereum research?
Dr. Jensen, Ava, perhaps when the outbreak is contained, we will talk of the old days.
Fine. If that's how you want to play it. If you won't help me, I'll find my own answers.
Oh, Eva. Your parents would be... They are. Oh, they are so very proud of you.
So we see once again as our characters return from the Dark Ether, Ravenov comes back with an injury. He's sewing himself up. Ava then walks into the room. She asks him why she can't find any information on him. She wants to know why the CIA terminal doesn't have any information containing Ravenov, his past, what he's done. She then begins to stitch him up. They start having a conversation together. She says to Ravenov, "You were part of Requiem." As he's sliding across members of Requiem on the screen, we see Carver, Dr. Gray, both who are deceased, Maxis, who is classified. Ava asks Ravenov what happened to Requiem, and he tells her exactly what we saw in the Forsaken ending cutscene, where Maxis sacrificed herself to end the zombie outbreak, where she plunged herself into the Forsaken, trapping herself within the Dark Ether. Ravenov reveals to Ava that he vowed to rescue Samantha, to bring her back, but they failed. I'm assuming he means him along with Weaver, Gray and Carver. So once they couldn't rescue Samantha, they vowed to never let another zombie outbreak happen again, but of course, well, here we are. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a Modern Warfare 3 Zombies. Anyway, Ava wants to know what exactly the focus of Requiem's Ethereum research was, and Ravenov completely closes that off and says, when the outbreak is finished, then we can talk about it. And that's when Ava walks out of the room before she says, "Fine, if you won't help me, I'll find out my own answers." And then Ravenov looks at his computer screen and says, "Your parents would be, well, they are very proud of you," as he looks at pictures of Requiem, himself, Maxis, Gray, and Carver. So there's a couple of big things that happen here. First off, a semi-reveal of who Ava's parents are. Now we actually know, and she knows it herself, that her mother is Dr. Gray. She already revealed to us that both of her parents were ex-National Intelligence, but those were actually her, I guess you would call them foster parents, because it is actually Dr. Gray who was her real mother. When Ava was just 3 years old, Gray handed her over to the adoptive parents, and then never saw her again. So we already know that, and back in 2006, Ava found that out as well. That was actually the reason why she got into all of this in the first place. In 2006, when she did a blood test, she found out that her DNA didn't match who she thought were her parents, so she went home trying to find her birth certificates and stumbled upon a CD-ROM that was marked with Gray's name, and then after a bit more research she found out that yes, Gray was her actual mother, which because of Dr. Gray's work on Ethereum made Ava fascinated with it and was driven to exceed her, but we didn't know and she doesn't know who her father is. However, we see in this cutscene when Ravenov says your parents would be, actually they are proud of you, and looks at pictures of Requiem. Well, we already know her mother is Grey, and since Dr. Grey is dead, we see that in the Modern Warfare 3 intro cutscene, her lying around the table, along with Strauss, Carver and Weaver. That rules Carver out. Not that I thought he was Ava's father anyway. Something tells me she's not, which means either Ravenov or Maxis is her father. Now, the obvious answer is Ravenov, since Samantha Maxis is, well, a woman, unless you got a stiffy, the two, it doesn't make sense. But we do know in Cold War Zombies it was revealed that Samantha had feelings for Dr. Grey. So Samantha and Dr. Grey had somewhat of a relationship. Now of course the two still can't have a baby, and since Grey is Ava's birth mother, Samantha can't be her birth father, which means the obvious answer is Ravenov and Grey are Ava's parents. And you can kind of tell by the way they act how Ravenov puts his hands on Ava's hands and says to her, Dr. Johnson, and then corrects himself to Ava, almost reminding herself that she is his child, not just his work colleague. Why he hasn't revealed this to her, I don't know. There's obviously a good reason, and there would have also been a good reason why Grey gave her away in the first place, why they both did what they did. So that's the first big reveal, that Grey and Ravenov are her parents. But we also hear him talk about how Maxis sacrificed herself to save the world, and how once she was trapped in the Dark Ether, they promised to find a way to rescue her. But they failed. Now, how exactly Ravenov, and I'm assuming Weaver, Carver and Grey and Strauss plan to rescue Samantha, we don't know. But could it have something to do with what we see take place in the intro cutscene, where we have our characters lying dead around the table? Since they vowed to never let it happen again, I'm assuming that it isn't the reason they are dead unless they attempt it again. But that's another thing we still haven't learned, why Weaver, Strauss, Grey and Carver were dead around this table with these Ethereum vials in the middle. Could it have something to do with them attempting to save Maxis for a second time? And the other big question that we're still left with in the story is, who is the entity? We've seen it a couple of times now in, I think it was season 1 act 3, and we also saw it in the previous act to this one as well. The first time when the entity appeared out of a rift, pulled Ava towards her and then threw her back before disappearing. Ava then opened her eyes and we saw they were purple, symbolizing that perhaps the entity had got inside of Ava. And then again in the next cutscene where the entity appeared, Ava then began hallucinating and she saw a zombified version of Weaver, Carver, Strauss and her mother Grey in front of her. These were just hallucinations, so it wasn't real, and Ava is on medication for schizophrenia, so it could be that those hallucinations that she had were because of her schizophrenia. But more than likely, knowing where to go with this stuff, it has something to do with her potentially being possessed by the entity. And who the entity is, well, we don't yet know. There are theories that it is Samantha, it's definitely a woman, but if you actually listen to what she says, her quotes, or more specifically just how the entity sounds, and you compare that to Samantha, they don't sound similar. Even corrupted versions of Samantha don't sound like the entity. They don't have the same accent. It sounds more like Ava herself. So there's definitely a lot more going on there, but just going back to the main topic, that explains this cutscene. It's not as much as the previous ones, but there's a couple of big things revealed. Ravenov and Ava being her parents, and Requiem attempted to save Samantha from the Dark Ether, but they failed. And since that failing, they vowed to never let another outbreak happen again. But it did. So I'm interested to see where the story goes. Hopefully it keeps ramping up from here. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, hopefully you've enjoyed the video today. If you have, drop a like rating. Make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest content on the channel, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, goodbye.